And good morning. It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com.
Hey,
and now your host, Mike Hewitt. Good morning, Mike. Man, you're jumping the gun this morning.
I'm all over.
You are so excited this morning.
I am. Listen, I was up late, watched the New Hampshire Primary returns. I had a lot of fun watching that. To me, that's excitement. To me, Matt Wiedenhoff is with us, who I often refer to as Ludwig von Wiedendorfsky. He's a big sports guy. To me, politics is hard-pounding sports. Get your heart going, pound you into the dirt, shake you up, pick you up, throw you out, get back on sports.
That's probably why I like it so much.
It really is. I mean, it's not for the faint at heart. Listen, we've got a pretty big show today. The first segment of the show, we've got a guest. The second segment, we're going to kind of spend some time rehashing the primary last night, maybe from a different angle than you folks are hearing all over the radio this morning. And then, of course, in the final segment will be the ENIGMA report, which are things that really make no sense, but they are anyhow, just because that's the way it is. On the line with us, though, we'll get going. On the line with us is the Vice Chair of Coalitions for the Michigan State Republican Party. Adi, do me a favor, Adi, help me pronounce your name.
Hey, Mike. Good to be with you. My name is Adi Sathi. Adi.
So, Adi, I was going to do it right, and I've lost faith in myself.
Yeah, you were good.
I was on her. I know I was going to do it perfect. Listen, help us understand. Well, just first off, you're the Vice Chair of Coalitions. What does that mean, and how did you get to be the Vice Chair of Coalitions?
Sure. So, to give you, a brief on, kind of the party structure of the Michigan Republican Party. There are 8 people on the statewide leadership team. There's the chair, Ronna Romney McDaniel, the co-chair, Jeff Sackler, and then there are 6 vice chairs that are vice chairs for the party, and in a way, chairs of individual aspects of the party. So, for me, that is the coalitions aspect of the party, and how that happens is that we have every 2 years a state convention to elect the party leadership, and so that was last February, 2015, the 21st was the date, February 21st, and so at that convention, it's a statewide race, but amongst the delegates of the party, and so precinct delegates that then get selected at their county conventions to then go to the state convention, who are the ones that get to vote, and so. It was a fun process for me. I'm from the 11th Congressional District, which is Congressman Dave Trott's area. And so at that time, I was serving on the 11th Congressional District Committee. The chair was Mike Mitchell. And so being involved with that committee, I got to do a lot of coalitions work, not just for the district, but also for various candidates that I was working with. And one of those candidates was a statewide candidate by the name of Satish Bobby Josti, and he ran for Wayne State Board of Governors,
right?
Which is also, one of those races where you got to get the convention delegate votes to get on the ballot as a Republican nominee. And so in the process of traveling and meeting folks on behalf of his campaign, I got to know a lot of good people like yourself all across the state, and then I decided to take on, the task of trying to build some coalitions for the 2016 cycle, and hopefully bring in more Republican voters in the process. So, in Michigan, of course.
Let me, to some listeners that are not directly involved in party politics, I think that there's this old image of what party politics means that I want to help you maybe, the people that are not involved, I think often picture the old 19th century view of 3 fat old white guys with cigars and shots of brandy, and they're making decisions for the world, and they're very wealthy, and they're all of these cliche things, and you're none of those things. So tell me, how do you view it? Is that how you view the party brokers or the power brokers and all of the different cliches that I see on Facebook all the time?
Well, maybe back in the day, but absolutely not anymore. And I'll tell you even a funny story about that. So back in 2013, I was at the time the executive director for all the student governments in the Big Ten, and I got invited to the White House Youth Summit. The Obama administration, obviously, at the time, if you remember, it was 2013 December, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, just passed, and they were trying to bring in a group of young folks to help them promote to their campuses, on some level or to whatever the network was. So I got invited to the Youth Summit, and I think what they thought in their head was they looked at me on paper, they saw a University of Michigan graduate, minority, from involved with student government from Southeast Michigan near Detroit or whatever in Ann Arbor.
You got to be a progressive with all that going for you.
Right. They probably thought I was a not even a moderate liberal, but probably lefty Bernie Sanders style, and so that's probably how I got my foot in the door. But lo and behold, I had an opportunity to ask them some tough questions, and
they were probably thinking, who let the Republican in?
Yeah. So it was kind of funny to me because one of the things that they did was when you walked in, they wanted you to take a picture with some signs that like essentially said I support ACA,
sure,
and all this, and I was kind of like I don't really want to take this picture, and they were kind of like looking at me like, why are you here then? And I'm like, I thought we were talking about like student issues and student government and sexual assault, mental health,
right.
Education policy. I didn't know what we were doing here,
Sure.
So it was funny. It was a funny moment to me because people look at my identity and they probably may think that at times. They probably think, he must not be a Republican. But I mean, the reality is that the party's changing.
Just for listeners' sake, when we're talking about your identity, how do you identify yourself?
Well, I mean, I'm of Indian origin. My parents were born in India. They came through England to the United States. Of course, we're all American citizens, and I ethnically identify as Indian American. I'm very proud of my roots, and at the same time, I identify as a Michigander and a U of M grad. So go blue.
Well,
all those listening.
But let me slow you up for a minute. When your folks, your immediate, so the immediate generation before you, your parents, went through England, came to the United States. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
And so they took the legal path to become another. Are they U.S. citizens now?
Yes, they are. So that's one of the reasons, actually, I really do believe in, legal immigration, not illegal immigration, because, it took my parents many years to go through the process, and I think there are definitely issues with the immigration system in many ways.
Sure.
Definitely,
you and I agree on that. But even at the show, if listeners ever watch the show on YouTube, there is often in the collage of pictures that go by while you're listening, there's a picture of a ship, and I've had people ask me, why in the world do you have the ship on there? What does that have to do with your political talk show? And it's the actual ship from the 1881 when my family came over. I think immigration is hugely important, but to do it the way your parents did it. And in the meantime, folks like you and I can dig in and try to make the system right. Everyone agrees that it's wrong, that it's broken, so we can fix it, but we can't ignore it. Is that a statement you agree with?
Absolutely. And, if you talk to my parents even, they would agree. They, even spent, a lot of time, jumping through, whatever processes they had to go through. It was years upon years of dedication to, being, coming in with a visa and becoming a permanent resident and then, applying for, American citizenship. But, that's the American dream right there. That is the true American dream, the immigrant story. And I think that if people do it the right way, which is very possible, then they should, of course, be part of this melting pot that we have in the United States.
Sure, but you're using, Adi, you're using some old terms like melting pot. Now, those terms have now become politically incorrect. And by the way, I use melting pot just to make sure everyone knows that I'm not taking exception with you. But
right.
One of the things, and you can maybe help me clear this up, and we talked about it on this show before. I've said it must seem fascinating or foreign, to use a word, for folks like your parents to come here with the idea of wanting to become American and be part of the American phenomenon, only to meet a culture that says maintain your own identity and everyone we're going to divide into multicultural little groups of people. That to me is such a foreign concept versus my approach or my attitude would be, welcome to the United States, go through this process and I'll hug you, welcome to the United States as citizens. I I mean, melting pot. That's where we assimilate and become one, marching in part of the great experiment. Am I seeing this naively, or?
No. No, I think that that's kind of how the country was established. I mean, everybody that came into this country at one point, in whatever generation, was an immigrant. You know,
right? Absolutely.
Maybe of course, besides folks that are Native American, and so, I think that people sometimes forget that, and there's nothing wrong with being, true to your American self. I believe in America more than anybody else. But
I'll get myself in trouble here, and I'm okay with that. But even Native Americans came from somewhere at some point. And,
that's true. That's true.
Sometimes we splice this stuff so thin that there's nothing left of it, and we need to slow ourselves down and say we're all American. Period. Not with. That's just how I view things. So, hey, let me change gears a little bit with you before we burn up too much of our time. You're vice chair of coalitions. What does that mean? Are you the coalition, or are you reaching out to coalitions? What's the GOP doing through your role?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So essentially, how the role in my mind works and how I've kind of taken it on is that there are many different coalitions that the party had established, and then there are a few more that we've added this year over the course of my time in this role, which includes the Indian American Coalition, the Deaf Coalition, and the Veterans Coalition, which I think are all very important.
Are these coalitions? Just let me pause you for a second. Are these three coalitions that used to be and then they've kind of fallen away?
So the three that I mentioned, I don't know that they were on paper in existence prior to. They might have been, maybe years back. But there were a good amount of coalitions that existed prior to that. And if you actually go to MIGOP, the Michigan Republican Party website, you can definitely see there's a coalitions link. You can check out all the other ones, but they include, Young American Coalitions, the Polish American Coalition, the Jewish American Coalition, the Social Conservatives, the African American. I mean, the list goes on. There are definitely a lot of well-established coalitions with leaders in those groups all throughout the state. And so the key to, I think, building strong coalitions anywhere in any organization is identifying key leaders, bringing them into the organization, whether they were already involved or not, and really making sure that they're engaged, and we can provide them with the resources they need to be able to work with other folks and essentially explain the message of the party, kind of what you said, letting people know that we really aren't just the party of old white men, like you said.
Well, I got to tell you something. I don't know that it's ever been that way, because to your point, there have always been immigrants, and there have always been immigrants of different colors and different ethnicities. Over the years, though, we've identified them differently. But even when I say that, I mean, I've listened to Teddy Roosevelt speeches, and they sound like if you skip some of the language changes, they could be same speeches given somewhere today. So some of these things are the difference between what we've been taught versus what was. Maybe during the Civil War for a period of time, everyone had brandy and a cigar, and they were just fat old guys. But that's not really who America has ever been, even though there's right now people driving on the road yelling at me saying, yes, it was. Well, but it really wasn't. Coalition-wise, when you're reaching out to folks, you go to a lot of meetings, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I think having a presence all across the state is very important.
A lot of folks right now are thinking, yeah, he's just become part of the problem, another high-paid guy. So I know that you're not paid very well. How much do you make from this?
So, I don't actually have a salary with the party. I do it on pure passion.
I'm asking that by the way, with a big smile on my face, because I think folks have really some misunderstandings. You're a volunteer, and I've got written in big, gigantic words to make sure I ask you is why? Why do you do this for free? You work almost full-time at it. What are you doing this for free for? What's your goal? What's your vision?
Well, I do have a separate full-time job, of course, but I mean, I put in a significant amount of hours, I think, to be able to, grow the party. I think it's very important to me. I believe in the message and the principles of the Republican Party, and that's what brought me, over to the GOP. And I think, I'm the type of person that if I take on responsibility, volunteer or not, I mean, most people sit on boards and most people are involved with different community activities. They're doing their volunteer work and their due diligence to make sure they do a good job. And so I just think that if you're going to give me a responsibility, I'm going to, spend my time to do my best. And I mean, it is a volunteer role. The party is kind enough to take care of certain expenses for me to allow me to travel sometimes or to be able to, work with some groups. But to me, I mean, I believe that it was a great opportunity for me, especially as a young person. I mean, I was elected when I was 24 years old to this position, and so now 25, I just think that, I got the energy to get out there and really do it right, and, I want to make sure that we can make a difference. I mean, if there's a year to do it, this is the year. I mean, 2016, presidential election, no incumbent, and, it's an important time in our country's history, and I want to be part of it.
Adi, you sound like a small business owner, putting a lot of time for very little. But seriously,
I am a small business owner, actually, but
I got a question for you.
Part of my life.
With the coalitions, do you go around to college campuses still, since that's kind of where you started?
I do, actually, and I do try to work with college Republicans and, some of my student government friends that, I'm still in touch with as much as I can. And, I've been involved with other organizations. And, for example, I actually involved with the APAC Campus Cadre Group, which is called the Spartans for Israel at Michigan State. I'm currently doing a fellowship program there. It's called the Michigan Political Leadership Program. So by virtue of being a student there, I'm helping that group out and kind of engaging them in both capacities, both from, the pro-Israel sense and also from the, party sense. And, trying to get them resources is also important. One of our coalitions is the campus conservative group, and there's also a young conservative group, which is, post-college folks. And so a lot of what I do is be able to engage with those folks as well. And we actually also have a youth vice chair by the name of Michael Benarian, who also does a lot of great work. He's very active. He's working real hard as well. And so he works a lot with them, probably a little more than I do. But, I'm always happy to help folks and get them involved. I mean, maybe 3 years ago or so, I didn't necessarily have a lot of folks that would be able to help me out and get me involved. And I really, of course, wanted to be involved. And so those that helped me, I really appreciate all that they did, and now I get to be able to, make a difference, and so I want to be able to help as many people as I can.
Very nice. Your folks have done a very nice job. I compliment you. Hey, let me ask you one last question because we're out of time, and this is a question I probably should have started with at the very beginning because it's either going to be a really short answer or a big gigantic one. But how much racism do you feel that you encounter in your travels?
I don't think that it's necessarily racism. I don't know that I would use that word. I think that a lot of times I have met folks. I've been to the Upper Peninsula in the 1st District. I've been to the west side of the state. I was actually at an event in Kalamazoo yesterday for the 6th District. I travel a lot, and I meet a lot of people, and a lot of people who are appreciative of us, a lot of people who are interested in getting involved. And in different areas, there just isn't as much diversity in ethnic identity, and so I understand that. I completely understand that.
So
people are curious, more than anything. They understand that we share the same values, which, automatically gets our conversation started. But They want to know, where you're from. I've never met a person of Indian origin, an Indian American person in this country. So tell me about yourself, and they're very curious, and I appreciate that. And even sometimes, they may ask some questions that. I might laugh about, to myself, kind of thing. Like, people always ask me the question, hey, Adi, where are you from? Where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from Michigan, from Southeast Michigan. And they're like, oh, no. I mean, like, where are you really from?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm from Southeast Michigan, but I think what you're asking
I'm
from
the 11th district. What district are you from?
Right.
I love it. But in that regard, though, it isn't as much racism as it is just an acknowledgement of the difference in what their eyeballs show them. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Right. And I think if there's maybe some innate racist tendencies, which I'm sure exist, I mean, like people have stereotypes that exist in their head. I think that, at least for Indian Americans personally, like being more personal about it, I think that, like, having been established on some level as, kind of a known model minority, if I may say it that way, and people that are, a lot of times if they have an Indian friend or whatever, if they have one other Indian friend, they'll always ask me if I know them. Like, there are 3.5 million or more Indian
I was going to say, aren't there only two?
yeah, right. So, but they're always, they're
that's funny stuff.
Folks, doctors, lawyers, businessmen, engineers, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So they usually don't think negatively. They think that, it's a good group of people to kind of bring into the party, and I think that, especially for Indian Americans,
I think before beyond negative, I've never seen that, but I think it's a curiousness.
Yeah,
and listen, I think that's a positive. So
yeah,
that's how I see it. But listen, we're out of time. In fact, we're over time, so I have to let you go. But I've got to applaud your effort. Please keep doing a great job, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And please tell your folks I'm complimenting them, okay?
I will. I'll definitely let them know. Keep doing what you do too, Mike.
All right, my
you're
friend.
doing a great job as well for the party, and I think everybody knows that. So
I appreciate you. You and I will talk again soon.
All right, absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Folks, we'll be right back.
And now we return to the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com.
I did good. I didn't jump in and too quick this time.
There you go. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I don't know if everybody noticed it, but there was a primary on TV last night that lasted till quite late because I watched it forever. Probably shouldn't have. That's part of the burden of being a political monkey or junkie, whatever you want to call it. One of the things I found fascinating about yesterday's primary, beyond the results themselves, which were fairly predictable. I had predicted Cruz would be in third place. I predicted Trump would win. Kasich did a little bit better than I thought he would do. Rubio, I knew watching the debate he had destroyed himself. But I have to tell you, folks, Chris Christie, I'm not a fan of Chris Christie. That said, he really surprised me because he spent a lot of time there. He worked hard. He spent $18.5 million there. And the reason I'm laughing when I say that is not to make fun of him. We're going to look at the money a little bit from that point of view. One of the things I hear all the time, and by the way, if I'm not trying to make any disparaging comments against Trump, so Trump supporters, please don't come out and try to burn me out in a parking lot or nothing. But I always hear about money in politics. It's ruining politics. So when I look down the list, first off, they'll talk about political elected leaders that are taking money. Oh, they're all taking bribes. They're taking money. It's all about contributions, and it's all this big long list of stuff. And first off, I mean, and those folks are in a large part of the folks that are embracing Trump, which I find fascinating because he brags about the fact that he's the guy that was giving them the money. And so I've never understood how that makes sense. And again, please don't get mad at me. I'm just asking the question. If the politician is rotten for taking the money, why isn't the person that was giving him the money rotten? I've never gotten my head around that, but it's okay. Let me just, before I get too far out on the limb with some of this stuff, Trump spent $3.7 million that combined between him and the PAC that supports him.
3.7?
$3.7 million is what Trump supposedly, I'm going by the list that was, I think Red State published it. I'm not sure who published it, so let me back off that a little bit. But when I do the math, $3.7 million, he achieved roughly 41,545 votes. So when you look at the math that way, that means he spent $89 per vote. Okay? That makes him, by the way, the second most frugal in terms of how many votes he got to what he spent. I love looking at politics this way because all these years I've been in grassroots politics, and I hear so many people do the populist rhetoric stuff about money in politics. Well, first off, if everyone paid attention, you wouldn't need a dime in politics, just so you know that. Having run a campaign, myself and 8 other people, the combined of us spent about half a $1 million in half of a county, and we got a 7% eligible voter turnout in a primary. So when you look at it that way, for all the folks that are screaming and hopping up and down about money in politics, it's the electorate's fault. if you pay attention. We wouldn't have to, the politicians wouldn't have to spend all the dough to try to get your attention. And by the way, the PACs that everyone hates would just dry up and blow away. There'd be no need for them if the voting population would pay attention. It's just true.
Yeah.
It's just true. I mean, I've talked about it on the air before. There's a picture in my little political office that it shows two politicians, and they're out on the steps of some courthouse somewhere, have no idea where. The whole town is there. They're all stretched out in the street. Can't get by the street, by the way. And each politician says his spiel, and then the town goes and votes. No money, no PACs, no nothing.
So if they taught, it's interesting.
Folks, I wish you could see Brian Thomas's expression when I was saying that. He's going, what? What's he saying?
But if you think about it, if they teach in school, if you grow a culture of involved citizens with politics and make it a priority for everybody to be plugged in, that would take money out of politics. Think about it.
It would. But if they were going to do that, they'd go ahead and teach people how to do a checkbook and some basic government things. Like the folks that say, I'm not voting in a primary, they make me pick a party. Morons. It's supposed to be that way. That's what you're voting in.
Sounded like Trump.
But I got to tell you, maybe I'm more like that guy than I think. But when a person looks you right in the eyeballs and says, I'm not going to vote in the primary because they make me pick a party, what an indictment of public education. Did you have government class? Yeah, I got an A. Good for you. Wow. Sometimes it's just befuddling. And then when you get to the general, did you vote? Nope. Why not? I didn't like who they had to pick. Did you vote in a primary? No. Well, stop it.
I tell my classes not voting is like letting your neighbor buy your underwear.
Well,
and they get it. They're like, huh? At first, I'm like, if you don't vote, then the person next to you voted, so you get whatever they got. So you might as well just let them go buy your underwear or buy your next car or buy your next house for you, and you just deal with whatever they pick. Like, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to vote now. All of a sudden, you bring it on the underwear, and they get it. College students, you know.
It's amazing to me the choices we make. But on my list, let me run down my list. Kasich came in second. You can't see this. This is top secret stuff. Folks, you should...
Can you email it to me then, Hilton?
Ludwig von Wiedendorsky is trying to cheat by looking at my cheat sheet.
Yeah, email it to me when we are like 5 feet away from each other. There's an official use of the...
What a world we live in.
Cyberspace.
Will you text that to me? They're on our bandwidth.
Take a picture and text it over here.
Kasich spent $12.1 million. He got 20,067 votes, so that's roughly the math of $603 per vote. That's a lot of do-re-mi.
Yeah, we call that cost of customer acquisition, $600 and some compared to $89 so far, between first and second place.
Yeah, it's a lot of dough. Cruz came in third. He spent $580,000. He was the least. In fact, he went there the least. He spent the least amount of money there.
He didn't think he had a chance there, did he?
No, I think he knew exactly where he was going.
Yeah.
And I say that because for all of the things you may like or not like about him, the one thing that he's got is he really uses technology.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you asked him yesterday morning, what are you going to get? I bet you he'd be within 1% or so. He knew what he was going to get. He's identified his voters. Some folks are going, what do you mean he identified me? How did he identify me? Because he can look at past elections. He knows who's following him. He can get very, very close. And, of course, they've pulled New Hampshire to the point where those folks must just hate to hear their phone ring.
Now, in today's world, it's easy to do this, isn't it? I mean, just get on Facebook and start putting in people's names. You see their posts and everything.
And to Brian Thomas's point, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next. I'm going back to your point, Brian Thomas, and I'm quoting Abe Lincoln, but we can't get any more true than that.
Yeah.
If you don't want, I'm talking to the school districts, by the way, the educators, talking to you, Ludwig. If you folks don't want people to vote, then continue with your silent treatment, or continue to describe the political party process as the three fat guys with the cigar in front of the big walk-in fireplace. The cliches are just absolutely bull-faced lies. I started to say laughable, but then I thought, no, what would Trump say? Okay. That's stupid. So.
Yeah, unless somebody has if there's a passion for what can, the differences people can make when they vote, the mentality seems to be, I don't have to do this. I'm not required to do this. It's not important to. My vote isn't going to matter anyway. What is one vote going to make a difference for?
I hear that a lot, but then I look at the differences between, let's take Cruz and Bush. Bush says, by the way, he hit the reset button. And I thought, do you really want to tell folks you've got a reset button? Did you borrow that from Hillary Clinton?
Got it at the pawn store from where she had it on pawn, didn't pay the bill.
She may have pawned it, because she spent a lot of dough too, by the way. But Bush spent I can't even say it, $36 million to come in fourth place. And to him, that's a success story. I hit the reset button, the campaign's going forward, and I'm okay. So that worked out to $2,581 per vote. And I thought to myself, do I really want him in control of my checkbook? No! And not me. Thanks. Good luck, folks.
$38 million?
Rubio, on the other hand, spent $15,200,000. I think he would have done much better. He really hurt himself in the debate. Chris Christie, irony being what it was, tore him up, but it looked like he caught some blowback, because I thought he would do a lot better. For, like I'd mentioned earlier, he spent a lot of time in New Hampshire. He spent $18.5 million, or in other words, just shy of $1,900 per vote. I'm not a big Christie fan, other than I like to watch him debate, because he does a nice job in the debates. I don't like his politics. He would tell me, and maybe rightfully so, I don't know, but he's in a very liberal state, and he's got a hostile legislature, so maybe those things are clouding what I would. Remember, folks, I'm a classical liberal. I'm a Jeffersonian. So anyone that comes up with different ways for government to stand on top of my freedom are not on my fan. But I'm not a fan. Not going to get my vote. And I don't want to say that he does that exclusively, but he has certainly taken some actions as governor that have caused me some pause. Christie, I don't know why she's in this, or not Christie, Carly Fiorina. I like her, by the way. I met her briefly that was a Donald Trump look. I saw that.
I can't now.
Listen, here, when I watch her on the debates, by the way, of course, you got to watch, Little Table's gone now, but when I watched her in the debating, I liked most of her answers. What I didn't like and what put me off of her is watching her between when other people were being asked questions, and she'd be hopping up and down shrilly. And I know I'm going to people, that's a gender thing. I don't mean it that way, folks. It really isn't a negative towards gender, because I've had people accuse me of that when I've said this. I didn't like the shrillness of constantly demanding attention when other people were trying to answer a question. Yeah, that put me right off.
I looked at her record, and she's not a politician, but no. I looked at her business record. She tanked 2 companies as CEO.
That's not bad.
I mean, I'm thinking, why would I want somebody who she's almost killed the #1 computing company in the world? Meg Whitman came in and saved it in HP.
The combination of her and her PAC, they spent $1.8 million, which is $332 per vote. I expect she'll bail.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I was wondering that.
I don't know. Why would you stay? She's going to have if you were a contributor, if you were a financial, if you were just John Smith, whoever John Smith is, I'm sorry. There's a John Smith going, leave us alone, would you? You're getting ready to write a check for a contribution, $50. Are you going to give her $50?
I think she, and this may sound wrong, but she's still got the woman card.
She's in 7th place.
But if 2 or 3 people, I don't know. I'm not going to really say, I guess.
Well, first off, I absolutely detest hyphenated America and the gender issue.
I'm tired of it.
I am so sick of listening to that nonsense.
Albright.
I really am. You're going to go to, and I'm going, what did she just say? Did the former Secretary of the State of the entire United States, all people, did she really just say that?
My wife was disgusted.
I'm just, that whole concept, people will say, well, Mike, that's because you're an old fat white guy. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's what I am, an old fat white guy. But I'm telling you that from my perspective, all of the hyphenations and the gender, all of that nonsense, man, I don't buy into it. I listen to it, I'm going, the math doesn't support that stuff.
I'm a husky young white guy. And
He's on his way to being a fat old white guy, I'm telling you.
I'm one step away, but I grew
He's
up.
closer than he thinks, I'm telling you.
I grew up in this generation that's supposed to, free love and peace and world and all that, and I'm tired of it.
On Facebook, one of my friends on Facebook is a progressive. He's a very nice guy. We just don't agree on. Actually, on some of the liberty issues, him and I do have some. But what kicks me about the fella is that he'll sound very reasoned on these liberty issues, and then he'll support someone who doesn't support those issues at all, or the actions of their politics squelches him on those issues. I don't get that. But my point in bringing him up, he's a very, very nice man. He's reasoned. He's honest. We don't agree, but he's a good guy. And I watched him on Facebook last night, and he was bragging that Trump got less votes than Hillary did. And I said, what kind of math is that? That's silly math.
They didn't make it to the graveyard yet.
Well, you got 1 out of 7 that we're reasonably measuring, maybe 1 out of 8.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't want to forget comments on Dr. Carson, who I like, by the way.
Yeah.
But, when I look, I said, there's another way of looking at this. The Democrats, in total, generated 234,443 votes. Interestingly, 2,049 of those were write-ins. They were names I've never heard of, like Jim Bob or whoever.
Was it that wonderful guy, Spectre, wonderful, or free ponies for everybody?
I think everyone needs a free pony, don't you?
Yeah, pony economy.
Are you against ponies for free?
I'm against anything that's free. Because nothing's ever free.
That's terrible. That's very terrible.
How about John Gilmore, or was it Jim Gilmore? Last time I looked, he had 48 votes.
That's not bad.
48.
He got 48 more than you did.
He did.
But he didn't spend $36 million to get them.
How much did he spend?
I don't know. He's not on the list. He did get on the list. Doesn't matter. He's got them. And some other fella on the Democratic side, and I can't think of the guy's name now, but he was bragging that he had gotten as a write-in more than, and he listed several major people, so I didn't follow it. But anyway, the Democrats got 234,400 votes. The GOP got 263,950. The reason that's important, in my view,
1-to-1, head-to-head.
well, it's not even 1-to-1. I mean, there's roughly 30,000 more GOP votes.
What's that mean? You go head-to-head, GOP wins.
Yeah, you have to measure them all. You can't say Trump, who was one of 8 candidates, versus someone who was one of 2 candidates. That's not. It's nonsensical to even think that that's a math formula to follow. But what I was looking at is New Hampshire tends to lean left, and the Democratic Party is larger in New Hampshire. And so when I look at this, what I think I'm measuring, and there's probably some political scientists out there telling me I'm on drugs, but what I think when I'm looking at these numbers is that the GOP is more revved up. Now and I'm not a Trump supporter, but I can't help but pause and say that may be directly the cause of 2 men, President Obama and Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. They both may deserve credit, because one thing is for certain: Rubio did not rev up the GOP. He just didn't. A lot of folks like him. I get it. I understand. I'm not ragging on the guy, but he's not what brought out 263,950 people.
I have friends who are watching debates for the first time in their life at 30 years old, 28 years old, 35, 40 years old because of Trump.
Yep. Listen, my brother-in-law, who's been on this show before because he's a former police union president in Pontiac, he's in Vegas now. He may be listening. If he is, he's laughing. Him and I have been in an ongoing Facebook war for like 30 days because I'm not a Trump guy. He's a Trump. He has drank the Kool-Aid. He's fully on board. And I thought, wow, this guy, does he really represent your values as a former? And then I think, yeah, he kind of does, because Trump really is, in his foundation, as a progressive. Folks, don't get mad at me. I'm just acknowledging what I see. And so it made sense then suddenly once I realized that. But looking at the money, I think it's a fascinating thing. But
Who do you think's out, Mike? Out of that list, who do you think drops?
I think Ben Carson's got to fall off. I think Carly's done. I think Chris Christie's done.
And Gilmore, obviously.
Well, I don't know if he'll ever actually be done, but it doesn't matter. He's done. But of the 3 governors, I think that's important to measure this that way. Of the 3 governors, I think that Kasich is obviously on a high. I think he's going to hit a real log jam when he gets down south, because he's got some moderate, I think, progressive politics. Some folks will say moderate. We've got some West Michigan elected leadership that are personal friends of mine that have endorsed him. We just disagree.
He'll be in Granite Valley on Monday, too.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately Monday evening. I'm glad you mentioned that. Monday evening, I don't have the information in front of me, but I'll be at the Zeeland Library in Zeeland. In fact, before we run out of time, I'll get that information in front of me. But I'll be part of a gun versus anti-gun debate. Oh. Two in favor of gun control, two opposed to gun control. I am one of the two panelists that are in favor of the Second Amendment.
Is that with?
It's down as it was
Herman Miller or Howard Miller.
Howard Miller, thank you. The Howard Miller Library in downtown Zeeland.
Yeah.
And I think it begins at 6:00.
If it's the Ottawa County Patriots. Yeah, 6. I believe it's 6.
Boy, I'm glad you.
I'm going to go to that.
Well, me too.
I didn't know that event was happening Monday.
Yeah, gun control is the name of a civil debate on a loaded topic. I'm glad it's Monday at 7 p.m. in the Howard Miller Public. 7 p.m. Monday. That's February 15th, the Howard Miller Public Library in Zeeland. And there's going to be, I think the TV station from Kalamazoo is there.
Oh, with TV8?
Whatever it is from Kalamazoo.
That'd be Channel 3.
Or Channel 3,
Channel 3.
WWMT.
Yep, and one of the panelists is a state representative, a Democratic state representative from Kalamazoo who's very anti-gun. The other anti-gun is a lady that works at the Holland Sentinel. And, of course, myself and a lawyer from Lansing who are pro-U.S. Constitution. So, listen, we've got to go to a break, and we're going to come back to try to jam a whole bunch into a short Enigma report. Folks, we'll be right back.
Come on.
And now we return to the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. I don't know if it really affects the Enigma, but I think of it as like a big, huge snail that would freeze on a day like today. So hopefully it's going to be doing okay to let the thing out and endure our nasty winter weather. Can the Enigma report handle a day like today? Can it?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever equated the Enigma to a big, gigantic snail. I'm trying to visualize
when
it.
I think of the word Enigma, I think of a huge, I think of the blob. The thing would kind of like lurk out of the darkness and kind of like.
That's where you used to do the Enigma, and you'd stretch it way out or whatever.
Yeah, so I just went way out there for you.
Man, he took it to the next level.
I took it to a new level, so.
If Jim Riley is listening, he just fell off his skis.
I don't think that's because of the Enigma report, though.
No, that's just because he's really old.
I can't take credit for him falling off his skis.
No,
that's when he actually fell off the lift when you did it, and he got out and fell off his skis again.
Poor Jim Riley. Listen, here, I got two things on the Enigma report today, and that's kind of unusual, but one of them struck me kind of after the fact, and that's I'm watching the speeches last night, and I was struck by Bernie Sanders. I really am. Listen, I'm not a supporter, and I respect the folks that support him. Good for him. He won. I think I'd almost rather him than Hillary, but I've got to really think about that real tight. I do. I'm not sure. That said, what I don't understand about where America's going is that there's like this negative now that's attached to success. Folks, that's an enigma to me. America used to be a place where anyone could become president. Take that away for a minute. Anyone could build themselves up from being an absolute. Myself, by the way, I've rebuilt myself financially twice over, from absolute destitute to doing very well. That's what's wonderful is that the country that we've got allows for that, where you can pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Rugged individualism. That's whatever happened to rugged individualism? How did we get from we have to have the government help us. By the way, they can't help us without first taking from us. This is just math, like I always say. Rugged individualism, from that to the point where a fella can get 60,000 votes for saying that it's somebody else's fault and we're going to make it right by stealing what they earned and giving it to you that didn't earn it. I'm sorry, I don't get it. And as a cure to college, government is why college has increased 1,140%. So we're going to take the exact problem that caused an outrageous increase in tuition and think we're going to solve the outrageous tuition with more of it. Folks, I'm sorry, that's an enigma to me, but the biggest enigma in that little chapter is how it is that success has become a handicap.
Well,
go ahead.
I think I got a good insight on this, having being an instructor at a university. I was talking about 9/11 the other day, and I remember I was 19, almost
too.
20 years old. And I asked some of the students how old were they, and they said, one girl said she was 3. So she didn't remember that. And I thought, okay, so you're the whole entire different, and a whole different generation I am at this point. Made me feel old. But when I grew up in 3rd grade at our school, there was the award for the best offensive player on our soccer team. Best offensive player. So they picked one player and said, you're better than everybody on the team at being on offense. Well, that's pretty scary considering today, right? Because today you can't even keep score. So the students that are supporting Bernie Sanders came up with teams that didn't keep score. Everybody played equally. It wasn't about the best playing to win the games, but everybody playing equally. There was no winner or loser. Everybody was great. So therefore, everybody succeeds. So if everybody succeeds, then why should you have $10 if I only have 1? We should have both have 5. Or we both have 10, but I shouldn't have 1 and you have 10. The generation that's supporting Bernie Sanders came up in that era. I'm the last bit that came up where there were winners and losers.
Listen, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If I can't play hockey, by the way, I can't play it. But listen, I was born with a heart defect. Yeah. I do not have this. You can play and I can't. That's not fair. I don't have that kind of thinking in my head because I was raised in a time when, and it goes to what Brian Thomas was talking about earlier, the philosophy that's taught in school. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was taught back then that everybody had something to offer. Not that everybody could be a first-rate baseball player, hockey player, football player extraordinaire, but everybody had something to offer.
Kia made a commercial on that.
Who did?
Kia, about the participation trophy, and they got ostracized over it.
I don't understand that. Well, Dorito made a commercial the other day that was, and we were going to run ourselves out of time ranting and raving over Bernie and being against success. But Dorito makes a commercial that it's a cutesy commercial during the football game.
Hilarious.
I thought it was cute. and the Uber left, the very, 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 very pro-abortion. There's a difference between being pro-choice and pro-abortion. They came out incensed because it actually showed a baby. They used the word, they humanized that baby in the womb. It is a human. Jeepers, come on, folks. All right, listen, last thing. Meeting Monday. Howard Miller, downtown Zeeland. Gun control or not? I'll be there. You're welcome to join me. Find us on Facebook. There'll be more information on the Facebook page / The Mike Hewitt Show. Folks, I'll see you.